Continuing on my sanguinary heresy kick, we have an Iron Warrior. I thought it'd be appropriate to give him the Auspex guy, and I also gave him a bare head, ironically from the Imperial Fist upgrade, the Forge World Templar kit. I primed them in Lead Belcher spray, but then I just went over it with Iron Warriors by Citadel appropriately. You probably could have just started with a black primer. Paint his gun's casing, the inner part of his shoulder pad, and wherever else you would want to have a hazard stripe with black. I gave him just a generic flat earth base, and I painted his Aquila with bright brass by Vallejo. I base coated the hazard stripes with stormvermin fur by Citadel, and then on top of it pale sand by Vallejo. It probably would be just easier to do this hazard striping first rather than put the black on first, but whatever. For the Iron Warriors, hazard striping is kind of like an honor mark, kind of similar to the White Scars red markings. We go on top of the pale sand with Everland Sunset, or Sun Yellow, or King's Gold, whatever dark yellow color you have. I also use that Storm Vermin to paint the Auspex. And then Sergeants have like black stripes on their helmets, and Veterans wear yellow helmets, and Veteran Sergeants have black stripes on their helmet. And then give him the normal dark tone, strong tone, Seraphim Sepia, Flesh Wash, your appropriate shades. And after a matte varnish, here he is. Now how I would make Perturabo go loyal. And let's be honest, Perturabo is a very inconsistent character. So I do take a lot of inspiration by Ciro the Adventurer.
Perturabo should lean into the practical genius, humane and fallible, while adopting a logical and cold persona when in the zone. But over time, his life erodes him and his mask becomes his face, his true self, despite himself. You should see a lot of future potential in Perturabo. He, like his legion, works together with the common trooper, as he understands the value of a pawn. His time on Olympia has made him cynical of humanity as a whole, particularly the ruling class, but he genuinely wants to do good, and that has never been eroded by his home people. He did, however, develop a cruel streak, coupled with a taste for debate. He is basically a fedora tipper, but much like them, he's only able to win the crowd over when he is overtly right.
He's got a small group of friend Primarchs, with his bestest of friends being Magnus. They might have different interests, but they do enjoy being around each other and nerding out about lore. He's got a somewhat friendly rivalry with Gilgamesh before the heresy. And like Greek, Roman. And of course he still has a rivalry with Dorn. He stays loyal because he was never really pushed over the edge, and his bestie Magnus did nothing wrong. Instead, Dorn did. He was convinced to become a traitor due to Sanguinius, and a long session with the Pain Glove making him see the Chaos Gods. So he was the one who ended up opening the webway, letting a bunch of demons spill into the Imperial Palace, taking it over from the inside. So we flipped the Siege of Terra on its head, so now the Loyalists have to siege the palace itself to get the Emperor out, as the Custodians wage a brutal war on the inside. And Constantine Valdor has to take out Dorn. And then, of course, we get the canon event aboard the Red Tier. In the aftermath, the Iron Warriors actually kind of accept the Codex Astartes, but Perturabo is a little apprehensive at first, until an alternate Iron Cage happens, and then he accepts it. They are Codex compliant, but they have a unique status known as Warsmith, which is kind of like a commander mixed with a tech marine, and instead of a chapter master, they have the Trident, a triumvirate of the first 3 warsmiths of the first 3 companies of the Iron Warriors. They all kind of work together, and of course with the Codex they broke the Legion down to smaller chapters, such as the Silver Skulls, the Iron Knights, and the Minotaurs. I'm surprised one of those didn't include a metallic name. That's because they're absolute lunatics. Perturabo goes MIA during a conflict with the Salamanders, where the Iron Warriors are trying to destroy the Chalice of Fire. This also happens to be the conflict where Vulcan ascends to be a Chaos Prince of Undivided. The Chalice of Fire ship was destroyed, and everyone assumes that Perturabo might have died in the conflict. But no one's for sure.